Here is the final drawing. So yeah, let's get into the process. I'm so glad this is done. I'll show you the whole process of this painting from beginning to end, from first, second iteration to the final. So yeah, let's get into this painting video. If you are new to this channel, my name is Joy and I am an illustrator and comic artist from Canada. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into this. Okay, so before we get into the full lore of this video, I wanted to quickly talk about this time-lapse that you're watching right now, which I exported from my Procreate app. I just sketched really quickly on my iPad, and this was the sketch. I'm gonna talk about it a bit more after I explain why I'm drawing fish, but basically I titled this sketch Sea Monkey, and I just used the default pencil pen on Procreate, and this is what it turned out to be. Lots of fish, a creature, like a humanoid creature on this freaky looking fish, and I thought it was like a stylized sea monkey, I guess. If you've seen what sea monkeys actually are, they're like these little, I guess they're little insects. I'm not totally 100% sure. So yeah, okay, so now let me talk about why I am drawing this fish thing. Back in December of 2024, in anticipation for the new year, I was thinking about some art goals I wanted to achieve for 2025. And part of that was upping, my videos on YouTube to at least one extra video per week, along with the vlogs that I post weekly. I also wanted to add more offerings on my Patreon, so I thought I could have my patrons participate in the videos that I do film. I've done this before. I've been on Patreon for a while, so I thought I'd start that again. And I didn't want to get way in over my head, so I asked my patrons to suggest a general theme while I took control of the medium that was going to be used. Yeah, so I thought to make it easy for myself, which it was not at the end of it. Easy is a word that is a little bit, I'm gonna say that a lot, but it was not easy. Anyway, I chose the main medium that I use, which is watercolors. I do a lot of color pencil and watercolor, but I've been doing a lot of exclusively watercolor pieces, like bigger pieces with just in watercolor. So I chose watercolor and graphite or pencil because at the time I just finished drawing a bunch of babies in pencil for Patreon rewards, and I was just really enjoying using graphite and creating these pieces in black and white with just pencil. It was really fun, so I thought I'd include that as well. So yeah, 13 votes later, the winning medium was watercolor. I wasn't really surprised by that. Here are the suggestions. I got two. I got one from Maria and I got one from Taylor. So Maria and Taylor, my patrons, thank you so much for your suggestions. I ultimately went with Maria's because honestly, I very, very rarely draw fish, and I wanted a quote-unquote challenge. So I thought fish would be challenging because I never really draw them. Fish never really interest me as a subject, so I thought to challenge myself, let's go with fish. Taylor's suggestion was really my thing, like microscopic creatures. She even mentioned making them into kind of like a horror movie thing. I thought it would be too easy to create these like monster looking things from these microscopic creatures. I could definitely do that. But yeah, I thought it would be more of a challenge if I draw something like fish, which I just never do, like I said. And it's funny too because Maria and Taylor like my work because when they posted their suggestions, they also made sure that I knew that I could make the drawings a little freaky and they would be okay with that. So yeah, so Taylor and Maria, thank you so much for your suggestions. You may be wondering why we are already like halfway into the watercolors and I haven't really talked about the drawing yet. Well, because this illustration is not the main event. As you saw in the beginning of this video, I was holding up a totally different illustration. That is because I was not happy with, the drawing itself. I sketched it out. When I sketched it out, I was like happy with the way it looked because it looked like an illustration, but it didn't really scream me. I thought, yeah, I could probably draw this and it looks fine. There's fish and there's this character and I think it would work out as an illustration, but it just didn't scream me. And I think I was going through something around this time where I was trying to think about my art and I wanted to be more marketable. I wanted to be palatable. I wanted to be nice looking so a lot more people would like my work. And a lot of people do like my work, not saying that they don't, but I guess I was just grappling with this identity because I want to be a freelance illustrator that sells work. And my work is very niche. If you're new to this channel, if you're new to my art, a lot of my work is has a little bit of freaky parts to it. It's a little bit horror. I tend towards horror. So yeah, so I was pushing myself to get this painting done because I was like, it's fish, it's pretty, it's nice. But I was honestly, I was in the trenches. I was struggling so hard. I was getting so much art block. I was staring at this drawing. It was just so hard, and I was going back and forth whether or not I would actually finish it. And I thought, like, I can't, be a bitch. I gotta finish this because I drew it. But as you can see, I am now, putting tape on a totally different illustration. So this is the second attempt in drawing fish. I really don't even know what to say about this drawing. It just came out. It's just silly. Maybe it's like one of the, like a vent piece, because the fish strangling the other fish is just how I felt with this drawing. I just thought it was funny, and I whipped it up really quickly, the sketch itself, like the pencil sketch. And I did try and push myself to paint as much of it as I could, but you'll notice I did not finish the whole process of filming this, and I didn't even finish painting the crab. So you'll see it at the end of the video. It's kind of partly finished, and it's totally not a finished piece. So I didn't even finish filming it. But yes, at this point I was just like, man, this is so hard for such a simple subject, you think, right? Fish, they're so simple. Alright, so on the same day, a couple hours later, after quote unquote finishing up that last illustration, I came up with another sketch, which I'm showing you right here. I went over it with some kneaded eraser, and then I'm back here with my pencil darkening some of the pencil sketches, just so when I do start painting I can see what I'm working on. But I actually drew this, and I ended up really liking it. It wasn't my intention to make it as kind of freaky and creepy and gross looking as it looks, but you draw what you like, I guess. And in the end, I drew something that I really liked. And you could say it's actually a mix of Taylor and Maria's suggestions, fish and kind of weird microscopic creatures. Although these creatures aren't microscopic. By the way, if you are squeamish with insects and bugs, you should look away now, because I'm going to talk about what they are. I quickly had to look them up on Google, but it's a tongue-eating louse, which is actually a parasite. Basically, when I was looking through Google Images, I typed in fish. I was looking through Google Images, and for some reason a picture of this tongue-eating louse came up, and I have seen them before. Don't ask me why, but I have seen them before on like Google, not in real life. If it was in real life, then that'd be kind of cool. But I saw them before, and I was like, you know what? That's kind of cool. I kind of want to draw them. So I looked up more pictures of this tongue-eating louse, and this is what I came up with. They are the three little beings who are eating this fish. You'll see them a bit more clearly towards the end of the video as we get more of the layers put in, but I looked them up, and I didn't use them as a reference. I didn't have a reference of the tongue-eating louse in front of me while I was drawing the sketch, but I used them as an inspiration. So they totally just kind of look like, that Pokemon Kabuto. They kind of look like that. That was in my mind, but also the louse. And yeah, I really enjoy them. I really enjoy how this drawing turned out, and it's really screams me more than the first, especially the first illustration. The second illustration is kind of, it has a little bit of me in there because I thought it was kind of funny, but also it was very, it was a very emotional drawing despite the silliness that it was conveying, because it was like a vent illustration. But this one, I really feel like it has, my brand, if you can call it that. And even though it's not the prettiest looking illustration, not a lot of people are gonna connect to it because it's just kind of plain freaky, I really, really love it. I used a lot of wet on wet technique for this drawing, and as you can see here, the page is really quite warped and wrinkled in the worst way possible, but I wasn't worried about it because I know that as I work through the painting and add more water, and definitely you'll see it later, I will be squishing this illustration with a pile of heavy books. That really helps out. With the first illustration, I didn't really talk about it because I worked on that illustration for a couple days, I had left it drying without anything, you know, putting any weight on it, so it dried really horribly. And I know I could have fixed that if I just used more water and then tamped it down with more heavy books or whatever that's heavy to flatten the paper. But I guess my heart wasn't in that illustration anymore, that it became so unmanageable to paint on that I really didn't want to continue it, so it's my bad. But as you can see here, you can see it's so warped and so wrinkled. But again, I wasn't worried because I know as I worked on it, it's just going to flatten more. It's not totally flat now, but I'm still flattening it with more books. I think it's also the nature of the paper that I'm using. I'm not actually using watercolor paper. I am using mixed media paper, and I just really love the way the color dries on the mixed media paper that I'm using. It's a Deserres brand, and I think it's a Fabriano branded watercolor paper. I don't remember the weight, but it's not watercolor paper, and I just feel like it absorbs the water really quickly, and because of that it dries very quickly. And the way I work with watercolor, if the pigment dries fast, I can work on it faster. I love finishing illustrations on the same day if I can, so that's why I like working with this paper, because it dries extremely quickly. Now that my first layer of colors are established, I am taking my time to squish the paper with the heaviest books that I have in my studio, which include my Codex book, a couple copies of my Sugar comic book, which is in my store by the way, and also this big heavy Ken Follett book. I am now going to be interrupted by my son here. What is going on? Hey, chill! My son is now 17 months old, and transitioning from when it was just my partner and I living in the house to now having a baby running around, I'm still trying to get used to working with that. Before, I had a lot of time to take breaks from my painting, take all the time in the world, stay up late, you know, all that kind of stuff. Now my time is limited. It's basically stuck to when the baby is napping, or he's in bed for the night, or he's not in the house and being taken care of by grandparents or other family and friends. So I'm just really still working on that balance. It's very difficult because again, you're also kind of exhausted from taking care of the baby and taking care of yourself and your household and your partner. So it's a big transition, and I'm still getting used to it. And I think a lot of one of the biggest reasons why the first illustration didn't work is I just basically took too long to finish it, that I had lost the initial spark and excitement of the painting itself. I think because also the painting is quite complex compared to this one. There were a lot of elements, a lot of things were going on. And because my heart wasn't into it, I procrastinated so much to the point where I basically kind of got bored of that painting too. So that's one factor, but I think one of the biggest reasons was I wasn't that excited for it. I was excited to paint, but I wasn't excited for the illustration itself. I don't know if you get that. But anyway, because time is limited nowadays, I really have to kind of work with, you know, my time, and something that excites me like this illustration I can finish really quickly compared to something that I just don't have my full excitement for, if that makes any sense. But the other thing about me too is I work fairly fast. I love finishing pieces within the same day. For comics, you can't really do that. Comics, you have to work on it in a couple days, weeks, but smaller illustrations like this, I love finishing it within the day. And I think for this one it took me about 5 hours from beginning to final. A lot of it was drying time and just waiting for the paper to be less warped. I wanted to say something about what I said earlier, where I didn't want to finish the first illustration because I wasn't excited for it. I didn't finish it because I had a choice. I know some artists, especially artists who do art as their career, freelance artists, sometimes they draw things that they don't really want to do, so they don't have a choice. They have to finish it, even if they're not excited about it. For this, project, this art video, I had some control, obviously, because I am just creating a personal piece at the end of the day. It is suggested by patrons, but I had a choice. For if I was hired by somebody to illustrate something I totally hated, but I agreed to it, I signed contracts, I got paid for it, or I will be paid for it, then I have to suck it up, So, but yeah, I guess I just wanted to bring that up because sometimes you just don't have a choice and you have to push through. We are nearing the end of the painting of this drawing. I actually don't have a title for it yet, but yeah, so I'm pulling off the tape here. I didn't want to keep on working on it or keep working it because I know if I continued, and I can continue, I might just mess it up. So what I'm basically going to be doing now is to continue really flattening up this paper. So I am going to grab my spritzer bottle that I use to wet my watercolor palettes or whatever palettes that I'm using, and I sprayed the back of the painting very lightly. I used a brush to spread the water a little bit more, and you can see the paper is immediately curling, and it's because this paper is so light that it just does this. So I grabbed my heavy books and I squished it. I made sure it was all flat and completely flat, and I kind of left it overnight for a couple of hours. I have this layer of just regular printer paper or cardstock, and then I put my books on top, and I just left it to dry completely. Now you know the context of why I was gesturing to that area over there. I was just laying these guys flat. So sorry for the lighting here. Anyway, here are the drawings. They're done. So this is the first one, which I don't think I'm gonna finish, but and I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, this first drawing, the second attempt, which I think is quite cute. I might sell this as an original, so watch out for that if you do want it. But yeah, that's that. It might be inspiration for stickers in the future. And then here is the final drawing. So yeah, this one definitely is going to be for sale in my shop at some point, so watch out for those. And speaking of stickers, if you guys want to support me on Patreon, get more behind the scenes comic stuff and art, here is the sticker awards for January. So you get this sticker sheet with all these cute stickers of this dog and his pal, the orange. Yeah, you get that, and also some original art, and also some behind the scenes on like working on Patreon comics and all that kind of stuff. More info is on Patreon, which will be linked down below, but the last day to sign up for these rewards are end of January. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this art video, and yeah, I will see you in the next one, either another art video or in my vlog, which I upload weekly. Okay, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.